Hello, and welcome back to the Tea and Soju Cdrama podcast, your safe spot for Cdrama chatter. I'm your host, Liliana, and it's time to sit back, grab your tea, and let's chat Asian dramas. In today's episode, we are diving into The White Olive Tree, and I'm going to be doing a review for this drama. Just some housekeeping before you get into the episode. If you like the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe on the platform you listen on. That really helps the podcast reach other listeners. For more content, check out Patreon, where you can find behind the scenes, first impressions, mini reviews, and more. Finally, if you would like to chat to me or find a community, check out Discord, Instagram, and other socials. The link will be in the episode notes. So, today we're going to be diving into the trauma that is The White Olive Tree. I've been wanting to do a review for this drama for a little while, but it's just about finding the right sort of slot to slot it into the tea and soju kind of schedule, because if you guys don't know, I actually sit down every sort of, I don't know, 3 months or so and plan 3 months ahead. So although I don't record everything that far in advance, I do make sure that there's a plan in place so I know what I'm supposed to be recording or what guests I've got coming up and that sort of thing, so I can slot episodes into a schedule. And basically I've been trying to fit this one in and it just quite hasn't worked out as of yet, but I finally managed it. So here we are. We're going to be sitting down and talking about this 2025 Chinese drama that kind of came, and a lot of people were excited about it, and then out of the blue it became way more traumatic than any of us were expecting it to be, at least for myself. Maybe the people who had read the book were fairly prepared for it. I was not. By about halfway through, you could kind of see where the story was going, but I was not prepared. So, if let's get into this. The MDL synopsis reads: during a mission in the East Country, reporter Song Ran is saved from danger by Liang, a Chinese explosive engineer. As they grow closer, they find their ideals and souls align, sparking a romantic connection. However, a bombing attack disrupts their budding relationship. After returning to China, they face personal struggles and lose contact. Li Zan suffers from guilt over his friend's death, while Song Ran faces controversy over a photo she took during the attack. By chance, they reunite, and together they heal and plant a white olive tree, symbolizing hope. So that is the MDL synopsis for this drama. And, it is adapted from a Zhu Yuxi's novel of the same name. It is 38 episodes and it filmed from September 2023 to January 2024. It aired from February 1st, 2025 to February 15th, 2025. So it was a fairly fast airing schedule for this one. It is an Aichi production and the episodes are about 40 minutes or so. Now, this is actually part of the Aichi Love On series, which I was very shocked by. So if you don't know, Aichi has kind of like a collection of dramas that they slot into either what they call the Aichi Love On series or the Aichi Light On series. So Love On series tend to be the more kind of romance. So MDL describes it: Love On series by Aichi presents a romantic blend of love plus X elements, crafting a unique, sweet, and healing style. This series explores niches like mythology, light comedy, fantasy, and time travel, offering an imaginative and uplifting experience. Through the stories of multiple couples, the series examines deep and socially significant themes of love. So that is what the Aichi Love On series kind of integrates. It started all the way back in 2021, and it has dramas such as Sweet Teeth. It has Forever and Ever, Love the Way You Are, See You Again, Mr. Bad, Love in Time, Follow Your Heart, Moonlight Mystique, The Day of Becoming You. So it has quite a lot of dramas. The Best Thing, for example, is part of the Love on Aichi series. So that is, what it's meant to be like. Most of these are fairly are dramas that have very happy endings, and yes, they explore kind of different types of love and love in different formats. But that's what the Aichi Love On series tend to be. So I was going into this thinking, oh, it's going to be fine. I mean, it's Aichi Love On series. How bad can it be? It does get fairly traumatic towards the second half, I would say. And by the second half, like I mentioned earlier, you kind of can see where it's going, but it was just a little bit, I don't know, it was just a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. There was a lot of crying involved while watching this drama for absolute sure. So that's why I wasn't quite as prepared, because it is part of the Aichi Love On series. So Aichi has the Love On series, and then it has the Light On series. The Light On series tend to be crime and thriller dramas. So you're thinking The Bad Kids, The Long Night, those kind of dramas, they all belong to the Light On series. So, that's just a little apart. So filming locations for this included Lishan, China, and the Red House Film and Television Base. It was directed by Huang Chun, and this is a female director, and she's directed things such as Moon Love, My Eternal Star, Good and Evil, Love Better Than Immortality, and Lost Love in Times, which was a special episode, I believe. So she hasn't really done a lot, but this was really well directed, I would say. So even though she has not done a lot, I think she did a really good job with with this one. This was also directed by the director Hai Tao, and he has done things such as The Better Life from 2023, Coffin from 2023. These are all movies. So for dramas, he's done Braveheart 2 from 2021, and I'm not actually seeing any other dramas. He seems to be more of a movie director. So that's, fairly interesting. And then for the screenwriter, we have Han Hao, who is a female screenwriter as well. And this screenwriter has only done one other drama, and that is the drama Speed from 2018, which I have not watched. So that is interesting. She was also supposed to be the producer for Winner is King, which RIP Winner is King is one of those dramas I was very, very excited for. It is based on a BL, so I don't know if or when we will ever see it. I was so excited for this one because this one stars Tan Jianqi and Chen Yuan. So will we ever see it? I don't know. So that is, the director and the screenwriter. And then for cast, we obviously have Chen Yuan, who will famously be known for playing Duan Jiashu in Hidden Love, but he's also been in other things such as Dark Knight and Dawn, Sword and Fairy 4, Mr. Bad, Our Secret, Renaissance, Handsome Siblings, and so on. I think he was also fairly known for being in Detective at Chinatown. And for female lead, we have Liang Ji, and she has been in a bunch of things as well. So she's been in Side Story Fox Volin from 2022, High Venus from 2022, which I personally really enjoyed. She's also been in Hot Blooded Detective from 2021, The Justice from 2021, The Day of Becoming You, which is one of my favorite roles of hers. I adore The Day of Becoming You. It is as well. It stars, oh my goodness, it stars Steven Zhang. This is like, so Zhang Xin Shang, and he plays little brother in Go Ahead. And these two together are hilarious. This drama is actually one of those dramas where they switch bodies, and it's so funny. Their comedy was really, really good. So it's actually one of my favorites of hers. And then, so she's been in a bunch of things as well. She's been acting for a little while. She has, all the way back to 2015. So she's been acting for 10 years. It'll be 10 years this year. So quite a while that she has been acting, although it's saying she was a guest in 1997. Oh no, she was a guest in Happy Camp, but I'm guessing not in 1997, because that would have made her 3 years old. So I don't think that would have been the case at all. So that is our main cast, but we also have some supporting cast, which I think would be remiss to mention. One of them being Wang Tian Chen, who plays Benjamin. So he has been acting since 2016, I believe, and he's been in things such as Joy of Life Season 2 as a support role. He's also been in See You Again and Miles to Go from 2023. I really liked this actor. I think this was the first time that I kind of paid attention to him, because obviously I have watched Joy of Life Season 2, but I could not remember him in that. And obviously it's historical, he's styled differently, but I just could not remember him in that. So I am actually going to keep an eye out, because I did really enjoy him. So he plays Benjamin. And then we also have Gu Zichang, who plays Sashin. And he's been in things such as Chasing the Wind from 2024, Follow Your Heart from 2024, Burning Flames, Hilarious Family, Love at Night, The Justice. So he's been in a couple of things. The thing that I remember him mostly from is No Boundary. Now, No Boundary is one of those xianxu's that barely anyone has watched. And I know, Marta, if you're out there listening to this, I'm mentioning her because Marta and I actually I feel like she's the only other person that I know that has watched this drama. And we watched it together on the old Discord. It was a lot of fun. And Marta and I, as soon as I mention No Boundary, I automatically think of her, because obviously we watched it, at the same time. We were watching it on air, and we were really, really enjoying it. We enjoyed the whole drama. So it's one of those xianxu's that barely anyone out there has watched. If you've watched this, please send me a message. So it's the name of the xianxu is called No Boundary. It is from 2021. So peach, coronavirus, COVID, being inside situation. And I was living for this drama. I really, really enjoyed it. And he plays like the second male lead in that drama. So I loved No Boundary. It's kind of like a different vibe for a xianxia. So maybe I should rewatch it and review it at some point. But yeah, if you've watched this one, come and holler at me and let me know what you thought about it, because I feel like Marta's the only other person that I know that has watched this drama. So that is kind of like the first experience that I had with him, but he's been in a bunch of things that I have watched, and he's been in Flourished Peony as well. I don't remember him in Flourished Peony, which is terrible, but it is what it is. Come and holler at me as well if you remember what character he plays in Flourished Peony. So that is kind of like the cast. We also then just have Liu Yongxi, who plays Pei Xiaonan, who is the doctor. So we have Zhang Ying Chen, who plays Shan Bei, which is the female lead's friend. Well, she becomes her friend, from work. So we have a couple of other characters, but those are like the main characters that we really, really sort of need to touch on. So I'm just going to go into my general non-spoiler thoughts, and this is what I wrote. As I was watching, that I thought would encompass into like the non-spoiler section. The first ones that I wrote is the beginning credits are nice. They are done in this old camera format, and although they use scenes from the drama, they don't spoil too much, which was really nice because, like I said, I don't actually mind the actors being used in the beginning and ending credits. I mind when they put on, very, what's the word I'm looking for, very prominent scenes in the drama and kind of spoil the drama, for you. This used to happen way more back in the day, a couple of years ago. This used to happen way, way more in Chinese dramas where they would put the most impactful scenes from the drama in the beginning credits. So if you were to watch the beginning credits, like for example, Vicky, which is still stuck in the, maybe in 2000, doesn't let you skip the credits. You have to like manually skip the credits, and like every other platform, you would watch these credits, right? And you'd be spoiled on most of the drama. So I'm really glad that they kind of kept, they still used some scenes, but they didn't spoil anything too much. So that was very nice. The next thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is the OST. It is so beautiful, especially the main OST song, which is called Te Amo. And it's it's a very soft kind of song. It's sung beautifully. And actually, I feel really bad that I don't actually know who sang it. So I'm going to go and Google that, the White Olive Tree. So it is sung by an artist called Lin, and I just loved it. It's so beautiful. It's very soft. It's one of those songs that just kind of stick with you, and they used it a lot in this drama, but it kind of fitted the mood and what they were going for. So I really, really enjoyed it. The next thing that I put, some people might find this drama a little insta love. So basically, this kind of happens fairly quickly. It's the first episode. It is a setup. It is how they meet. She is a reporter, and she's reporting on some fighting that is happening in this country, and bombing happens, and she's making her way, out of the place where the bombing kind of happened, away from it, and she comes across this barrage, like not barrage, just oh my goodness, what's it called? Like this barricade, so she can't go forwards. And basically, she gets out of her vehicle and steps on a bomb. And he basically comes and helps her and defuses the bomb and whatnot. So that's kind of like how they meet. And they go through this kind of like life and death situation. And then they start to talk to each other a bit more. Life keeps throwing them together, that sort of situation. But she is very interested in him from the get-go. She thinks he's handsome. This guy just saved her from a bomb. So I think that's why it kind of worked for me, because they did go through a life or death situation. So although it might seem like insta love, I can kind of understand where she's coming from. It was a very high stress situation, and it kind of works in the grand scheme of things, I think. So, I also put down, one of my general spoilers is this drama is arguably a little too long for what it needs to be. We do take quite a while for the story to sort of really get going. And then when it does, they get together, and then you get to the second half and it is all sadness. I kid you not. It is hard to watch. And yeah, that was a problem for me. We did take a little too long in the first half, just with things that I didn't think were necessary to the story per se. So I think that's probably one of my most setbacks, is that the story does not need to be 38 episodes. I feel like 30 episodes would have been just fine for this. So that is one of my biggest complaints, I think, because on the flip side, one of my most what's the word? One of my things that I loved most about this drama is the acting. This is some of the best acting I've seen from both of these actors, both from Liang and especially from Chen Yuan. He's great in Hidden Love. But Hidden Love, I don't think is a very challenging character. When it came, I mean, the second half for him, yes, once he has to show a lot more emotion. But the first half, where he's just being cocky and confident and whatnot, that if you watch him behind the scenes or in variety shows, that swagger, that kind of confidence, that is very much him. So I don't think that's as challenging as a role for him. Whereas with this, the second half of this drama is incredibly challenging for him, and you can see it. You can truly feel him and feel what he's doing. And I honestly was so incredibly impressed. This is the drama that makes me think he is a really good actor, and I feel like he's gonna be really give him another 5 years or whatever, and I feel like he can really establish himself. If he picks the right projects, he can really establish himself. So, even for Liang this was also very challenging. It's very different to anything I've watched her in beforehand. Yes, the first half, not so much. The first half feels very much like a recycled character for her. But the second half, when things really turn on their head, I feel like that's when, you know, you really feel these two actors show some of the best acting of the things that I have watched from them. Now, you might say it's definitely not that. They've done much better, but I'm saying of what I have watched of them. So that is like sort of my general thoughts. And obviously, the last thing, it is sad, guys. The first half, not so much, but the second half, it is sad. It is going to make you cry. So the ending is up for interpretation. I will just leave it at that. So yeah, I think I'm just going to rate it and then move on to the oh my goodness, the spoiler section. I cannot think today. Obviously, so it's a Sunday, right? And we have had the most beautiful weather in the UK. It's been really warm, it's been sunny, and it's been lovely, absolutely lovely. But first of all, I love this weather, but it also means my allergies have been on peak. I don't know about you guys, but I got COVID, and then afterwards, my allergies seem to flourish so much more now, to the point where my eyes are watering, my nose is blocked. It is a whole conundrum. So it's been beautiful, and I just suffer with the allergies anyways. But today it's turned. So now I'm sitting down to record. It's Sunday, and it's raining a little bit. So I don't mind recording when the weather is like this because I'm not going anywhere anyways. But I have been reading all day. I'm very deep into this book. I'm like 60% of the way. And do you know when a plot point really picks up and you're like, oh my God, now we're cooking? That's where I was hitting, and I was like, but I had to pause it a little bit to come and record this for you guys. But if my voice sounds a bit funky and whatnot, please blame it on allergies, because that's what we got cooking right now. Allergies. But I'll take the sunshine. I'll take the sunshine with the allergies over the rain with no allergies. So let's rate this drama. So my ratings are as follows. 1 teacup, it was something I watched. It wasn't good, but something made me finish, and that is a 1 to a 5.5 on MDL. 2 teacups, the okay ones. Dramas I don't really recommend, but they were an okay background watch, and that's a 6 to a 7 on MDL. 3 teacups, the enjoyable ones. Good dramas, they were enjoyable, and I would recommend to people who enjoy this genre, and that's a 7.5 to an 8 on MDL. 4 Teacups, The Loved Ones. These are dramas that I really loved. There might be a couple of problems with it, but overall, a really enjoyable drama that I would recommend to a wider audience. And that's an 8.5 to a 9.5 on MDL. And then 5 Teacups, the Rose Glass No Fault dramas. This rating is reserved for those dramas that you love so much that you are willing to ignore any problems they may have. And that's your elusive 10s on MDLs. Now, you guys know that overall, I tend to be a bit of a harsher rater in general. That is just what works for me. I'm the same with books. I'm the same just in general. I tend to, um, downgrade a bit more than overgrade, if that makes sense. I don't know, maybe it's the overachiever in me. But for this one, I actually ended up I'm just gonna check. I think I ended up scoring it an 8 on MDL, which would equal a 3 Teacups. Now, let me explain this. I still really enjoyed this drama. I really did. But first of all, the first half for me is a little bit clunky and a little bit long for what it needs to be. Because the first half, technically, you are truly just setting up. And that for me it was too long for what it needed to be. I wish they would have shaved off a couple of episodes there. And then the second half is brilliant in acting. The story itself is frustrating at times, but understandably so. But then the acting is just so ridiculously good in the second half, which is what makes this such an enjoyable watch for me. But at the same time, I cried my eyes out and it was impactful. So I don't know if a wider audience would necessarily want to watch this because it is sad and not everybody likes watching sad things. So that is why my rating for it would end up like being a 3.5 Teacups, because I don't think I would recommend this to a wider audience. I think I would recommend this to people who are okay with sad things and who are okay with not so necessarily happy endings, because that's not the case. Or I mean, it is up for interpretation. To me, I will discuss it in the notes later on, in the spoilers, what I thought about the ending. But there's different perspectives out there for the ending. I am just not one of those people who believe this is a happy ending story. I don't think it is. I think it has a lot to say about mental health, and they aren't scared to go there. So I think that is applaudable in it just for trying. I think they did a good job with that. So yeah, I think 3.5 is where I'm comfortable with rating this, because again, I really enjoyed it, but I don't necessarily think a wider audience would enjoy this specific one, specifically more because, like I said, the second half is where the really good, juicy acting is at, but that is also where the heartbreak and the sadness is at, and I'm not sure everybody would necessarily want to watch that. So that is my rating and my explanation for it, and we are now going to be moving into spoiler territory. If you don't want to be spoiled on this drama, please pause now, go watch it, and then come back and listen to the rest. If you do want to be spoiled on it, please listen on. I'm going to be going through all of my notes, so that does mean I'm just going to go through episodes by episode, so there's spoilers on everything. And so this has been your spoiler warning. So we are now on the other side of spoilers. So let's talk spoilers. The first thing that I have down for episode 1 is that I actually really, really enjoyed the shot of the bombs hitting and like Songran watching. So, but what I mean by that, obviously I don't like it that it's happening. I liked how it was shot. It was really nicely done. So she's watching it from the rooftop, and I think the acting here by Liang was good. She was afraid, but she was determined to do her job. So she was going to start a live stream and record, and report on what was happening at that moment. And I just think she did a really good job with the acting, and the shot itself was kind of like really impactful for an episode 1 in a drama. So I liked that aspect of it, how it was filmed, how it was created. Obviously, episode one is when they meet. I kind of already touched on this. It's kind of classic in a war zone type of situation how they met, but I kind of liked it. I thought it was good. Episode one, I also have oh my goodness, I cannot speak today. What is wrong with me? I also have written down that I liked that she accidentally keeps his red string bracelet. This is like a nice follow through throughout the whole drama. We keep drawing back to this kind of like red string bracelet that he has, that kind of got snagged on her bag, and then she tries to give it back. He gifts it back to her. It's a beautiful like symbolism throughout the whole drama. Now, if you don't know what the red string of fate symbolizes in Chinese dramas and in Chinese culture, I kind of just got a very quick summarized explanation for it. And it says in Chinese culture, a red string bracelet, often associated with the red thread of fate, symbolizes luck, protection of the inevitable connection. Oh my goodness, symbolizes luck, protection, and the inevitable connection between those destined to be together, particularly in love and marriage. So it's a beautiful symbolism. I am such a sucker, absolute sucker for anything red thread of fate symbolizing, because I just think it's a beautiful thing. And it's very common in xianxia, but I love it when it appears and pops up in modern dramas as well. So I really liked that aspect of it. So for episode 2, I just have her finding him again by him offering her an umbrella and walking together in the rain. This was a beautiful scene. It's a classic scene. I mean, they have this whole thing. Episode 1, they kind of meet in this country, right? That is at war. And basically by episode 1, they both fly back. So this is a very, very quick stop for the time being in that country, and they both fly back. And she kind of is wanting to try to get in contact with him, but is struggling to do so because obviously she doesn't know very much about him. She does eventually find him, and it's by luck. So she finds him, and he offers her an umbrella, and they walk together in the rain. And it's a very, very nice scene. It's kind of like them connecting back on their home turf, so to speak. So I really liked that aspect of it. So episode 3, I put down them seeing each other again in East Country. So by episode 3, they are back in the war zone country or East Country. And I wrote down one of the quotes that I really liked was they say, "Aren't you afraid after the bomb?" And she says, "Yes, I'm afraid, but a reporter needs to keep charging forward." So I really liked that sentiment. I really did. Now, I will say one of the things that I think is a weakness of this drama is the East Country itself. I think it's obviously used as a plot device, but in that first section, which is in these first couple of episodes, they could have done a little bit more exploring an explanation of the East Country and what it is, because we kind of have no clue why there's a war happening. We just don't know why they are getting all of these volunteers to come in and help, because our male lead is technically not army. He's a bomb explosive expert, and he's coming in on a what's the word I'm looking for, on a expert situation, and he's helping them defuse bombs, but we don't know why that's happening. So I wish we did. I really did. I think it's one of the downfalls of the drama is that there's not really a lot of explanation to and backstory, back building to that, even though I feel like the first half could have done with that, because it feels a little long for other things, but not for this. Episode 4, I wrote down that I like her visiting the market with Sasin. And Sasin says to her, "If you truly want to see this place, put your camera away. They won't open their hearts up to the lens." I adored that quote. It was beautifully done. And it's this beautiful market that Sasin takes her to. Sasin is basically journalistic spiral. He wants to be a journalist as well, but he's accompanying her. He's native to that country supposedly, and he is helping her, by recording things, kind of like a cameraman. And he's also, helping her go around the country and whatnot. So I really enjoyed that quote, and it was a good quote. Episode 4, I just wrote down bombs, shootings, and stabbings. Basically, they are at this market. She meets up with the male lead at the market, and they, there's a bombing, there's a shooting, and there's a stabbing all in one episode. They also, I really liked that afterwards, they're both talking about like almost dying, and both are saying I am fine, but clearly they aren't fine. They aren't trained soldiers at the end of the day, and obviously the whole situation that they just went through in episode 4 with the bombing, the shooting, and the stabbing all happening around them, kind of was a precarious situation, and I'm guessing it's not an easy situation for a civilian, because that's what they are at the end of the day. Yes, they are there to do a job, but they are still civilians. So I don't think mentally they are that prepared for what they are supposed to be doing. So that was interesting. Episode 5, I put the shot of the male lead carrying the little boy in a bomb devastated place with the little girl holding the little boy is one of those images that would shake the internet, and it's done very well here. So basically, it's after the bombing in episode 4, and our male lead is carrying one of the little boys that becomes friends with our main couple. It's like a little boy and little girl, and he's carrying this little boy, and this little girl is holding the little boy's hand by their side because he got injured. So it is one of those shots, one of those photos that would in real life circulate the internet, make the rounds. It is, I don't know how to describe it, because how can you describe this photo as beautiful? It's not beautiful because the circumstances that led to it are incredibly sad, and it's even worse to think that it's happening in our world right now. So I think that is probably one of the reasons that it makes this drama even harder to watch, because these situations are happening in our world right now. So it makes them very impactful. And like I said, this image is beautiful, but is achingly beautiful, if that makes sense. So I will definitely try and find the image that they use and put it in the Instagram, carousel for this episode, because I think it's one of those photos that kind of sticks with you. Even if it's just part of this drama, it could just as easily be part of a real life photo, and I think that really impacted me. So yeah, episode 6, I'm glad they quickly cleared up that Sean Bei is not Li Zhan's girlfriend. So Sean Bei at the beginning is a little bit of an annoying character, and I will say actually Sean Bei is, so she works at the same newspaper or the newsroom, news place that our female lead Songran works at, and the both of them have kind of always had a rivalry back and forth, and I really really loved their relationship because it was one of the best female relationships development that I had seen. She could have just so easily gone down the path of becoming a very annoying character, a very antagonizing character, but she didn't. They made her grow up, and they made her appreciate Songran, and Songran appreciate Sean Bei. So by the end, these two had become really good friends, and they were in very different places. And I really, actually, really, really loved the relationship between Sean Bei and Songran. So yeah, it is just where it starts. She basically like pretends that she's Li Zhan's girlfriend. She's absolutely not. That misunderstanding gets cleared up very quickly, and I really, 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 really appreciated that. So episode 7, I put down, I have quite a big chunk, and I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to read it. Episode 7. I will also say it's harder to watch images like this when we know that this may very well and is the reality of some people. This drama has managed to pit across the desperation of people. The way Songran uses a camera to show the world a snap of a war ravaged country. You can see how difficult it must be. However, this drama turns out, I do commend it for showing this. While they are driving through a more affected area of the country, they haven't, this is a quote from that specific scene, they haven't lost their respect. This is their dignity. We shouldn't just give them bread and water. We should give them our respect from the bottom of our hearts. And just thinking about this specific scene, it's already like almost bringing tears to my eyes because I can clearly see the scene. They're driving through this, part of the country that has been hit really difficult. These people have no food, they have nothing. But they kind of stop and they try to give them all of their rations that they have on hand, but obviously they have not got enough. They were not expecting to need to give food out to people. So they give all they can, and that is a quote they use. These people have not lost their respect, and we should give them respect. They don't just need food. Yes, they need food, but they also need, respect from the bottom of our hearts. And I think it's a beautiful thing to show respect and kindness to somebody who is that in that place, that they're so devastated. They've lost everything. They have nothing left. So that scene was really, really, really impactful. And then it's a juxtaposition. Oh my goodness, that's a big word. It's basically, it flips it on its head, because in episode 7 as well is the scene where they go to see the white olive trees and they start talking about how they represent hope. And now, guys, this shot was a little bit funky. It is all CGI'd in. It could have been done a little bit better. It's them sitting on a kind of like a truck, and they're watching these beautiful white olive trees, and all the white olive trees are CGI'd, but it's still a beautiful shot. And the conversations they have in that episode and in that scene specifically are very, very good, I think. So yeah, episode 8, I put down female lead getting drunk and the male lead helping her back to her tent. So I said I really appreciate the fact that they did not kiss here, because if they had, she would have been drunk. It just wouldn't have worked. So I really appreciated that. And then I also put saying, so basically there's these people that kind of need help, and Songran is trying to get all the money together because she doesn't have all the money right there with her, and she's asking some of the other reporters, and the other report, like one of the men is like, oh, why would you do this, blah 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 blah, and she goes, we women just do what we can to help. And I loved her standing up to like the bigoted man. I really enjoyed that scene. Episode 8 also has a really, really hard scene to watch, which is there is a bomb attached to a little kid, and that scene specifically is just hard to watch. But I'm glad that our male lead was able to defuse it and like save the little kid. It is like there is very much high tension situations in this, in this show, and I think this was one of them. Episode 9, I wrote down, it feels like the calm before the storm. Everyone's having fun. Our main CP is dancing. So our main couple is dancing. It truly was the calm before the storm, because, two episodes later, we started the devastation, and it never stopped until the end of the show. So episode 10, I put, it really shows the difference between Songran and Shanbei in terms of their work. Shanbei is throwing money and doesn't understand that people also have their pride, whereas Songran tries to help, and Shanbei is an idiot to her. She says, I won't compete here for Li Zan or interviews. This is a war zone. Back home, fine, we can compete and you aren't guaranteed to win, but not here. And I loved that line because it just put Sangran in a whole different perspective. She's saying to her, look, back home, all is fair. Like, I will compete with you back there, but here, in like for these, I will not compete. Like, there's just no compete. And I did write here, Sean Bay's growth is one of my favorite things about this show. It truly is because she's a side character, but I loved watching her grow throughout the whole drama. And then we hit episode 11, guys. We hit episode 11 and all hell breaks absolutely loose. Because in episode 11, so they've been building this orphanage and we've been working with this orphanage to kind of like house these kids that have been displaced by war, and the orphanage gets bombed. Rena, who is Sassin's mother, dies. Yeah, everything goes sideways. Another bomb, and our couple has major injuries and they lose track of each other. So this is where everything starts going sideways, basically, is this attack on the orphanage. Is kind of like the turning point for the show, I believe. And then so episode 11, seeing Songran struggling to go back to work but having panic attacks. This is like Liang Jae's phase to be like to really show the really, really good acting. Her panic attacks were so true. Like you could truly feel how panicked she was. She was obviously having post-traumatic stress disorder, and she was having panic attacks due to this. So it was because obviously, again, we need to emphasize these are not trained people to be in a war situation. I mean, they may have a couple of courses here and there, but that's not what they are, intended to do. So it must take quite a toll on you mentally. So yeah, episode 12, I put down seeing our male lead for the first time. His back is all scarred. Male lead's acting in this episode is so good. His pain, him trying to hide his pain, putting on a brave face, but mentally struggling. This is again the start of like they have really, really been mentally affected this time around, and you can see in their acting, you can see it all through, and I just really, really, really enjoyed it. And then episode 13, episode 12 again. I put it's a quote by Songran. And she says, every night I feel like an island adrift and alone, and the only other person to have gone through everything with me, Li Zan, has vanished without a trace. And it's true because like those two had made a really like a real connection, and at this time they kind of want to find each other again, and it's impossible because they're in completely different situations. They're being treated for different things, and they have just lost track of each other again. So they meet back up in the very next episode at the airport again, and it's a really nice meeting. It's kind of like what they needed, I think, both of them. So episode 13, I have put down her getting all the hate comments on her photo and him trying to cheer her up dressed as a panda. He was struggling more than her, but because she needed him in that moment, I think he kind of like put everything of him aside to concentrate on her. And I think that's a dangerous, slippery slope, but it's how the drama went. And it was an interesting take, actually. I also put in episode 13, I like Sean Bay and Songran. They understand what each other went through and try to help each other. Sean Bay standing up to the director of news, saying the photo he chooses causes harm to all of them because he doesn't know what happened right after this photo. So one of the photos that he's going to use in the article is right before the orphanage bombing, and I think that's why it was very hard hitting, and it was very hard for Songran to actually see that photo again because she knows exactly what comes afterwards. So, and then she's getting all the hate comments on it and whatnot. So that was a very, very sad moment, I think. So episode 14, I just wrote down, I love to see Sassin and Benjamin back, both in the army trying to figure things out. Sassin and Benjamin were also one of those duos that I truly, truly liked for the first half of this drama, for like the first 10 episodes before the bombing. I swear there was tension there. Like you could almost feel like they were almost gearing towards them having a relationship, which is impossible because it's a Chinese drama and it's two guys. But I swear that was the tension that was there. But then obviously it kind of just turns into very much brotherly attention. So I really enjoyed their relationship in general. I then have for episode 14, I said, I love to see Sassy. Oh, I said that. And then episode 14, him not being able to make their meeting and her pretending that she wasn't there, but she was. It's a whole misunderstanding, but it does get resolved. So I do enjoy that. I said episode 15, Songran's stepmother commenting with her sister if depression isn't just bad mood. And the sister saying no. Stepmother saying, but her job is going well. She won an award and her temper seems fine. It's an interesting comment, and and we show sometimes isn't what we show sometimes isn't everything. So never judge someone. I think that's what this scene specifically is trying to get across, is the fact that on the surface she seems like she's doing fine. She won an award for her work. Her work is going well and she seems fine. But deep down, she's truly not. She's suffering from depression and she's trying to handle it as best as she can. But I really liked this scene, not necessarily because I liked her stepmother. I didn't. I don't like, Songran's stepmother. But I appreciated this scene because it's just like a reminder, don't judge by what people are putting out all the time, because sometimes behind that, we simply do not know what they're going through. So yeah, I put down episode 16, Songran's dad being against her because she made a comment about the bullying case, saying he'll go to her job saying she's sick and can't work. And I said, what an asshole. Her dad is horrendous. She's basically getting a lot of recognition and she's getting there's a bullying case and it's with so our male lead has this friend back in the army, and his name is Jiang Lin. He is the one who dies in the orphanage bombing, and he really causes this whole thing to kind of blow out of proportion, and it's what he's dealing with that makes it much more difficult. Now, Jiang Lin has a little brother, and this little brother is called Jiang Yu, and there's a whole thing happening in his school, and this is actually kind of the thing that I thought was a bit dragged out. I didn't need to know all of this story because it was a side character story that kind of seemed to take over the main plot line for a little bit. But basically, it seems to be like there's a bullying case with Zhang Yu, and our male lead, Li Zan, is trying to resolve that because he's trying to take care of Zhang Yu because he feels guilty because of Zhang Lin's death, because Zhang Lin kind of died to protect him. So that's the whole situation, and that's where that's coming from. I didn't think her father had no right to kind of get involved. It's her work, it's her life, and she's choosing to deal with it. So it was very, very interesting overall. Episode 16, I put down, I love their conversation in her living room, him admitting to her that he has PTSD, him also admitting he wants to volunteer but is so incredibly scared at the same time. This was the episode where they kind of finally opened up to each other about what they were truly feeling, and I think it was so necessary for the drama because it seemed like for the longest time they were not talking to each other, and it was heading down a slippery slope of them just kind of hiding their feelings from each other, and not just the good feelings, but the bad feelings too. So I'm glad they had this conversation. Then obviously episode 17, it's their first kiss while it's raining outside, and then their cute couple moments. It's kind of like a little breath of, a pause. It's literally what it feels like in this drama. It feels like a pause just before you get hit with the next set of sadness, because it does come. And I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because otherwise this episode's going to be very long. So I put down that episode 21, finding out more about Songran's mother and the fact that she was betrayed by Songran's father, and she had to leave Songran behind, made their relationship easier to understand because they have a very strained relationship. And this explanation kind of, in this episode really made it much easier to sort of understand. And then episode 23, them not communicating communicating is infuriating. She's relapsed with her sight. So basically, because they were involved in that bombing, she had a lot of problems with her sight and she's relapsing with that. And him not being able to defuse the bomb yet, they pretend like everything is okay and don't tell each other. Like, how can they support each other? So basically, they are trying to do the classic putting on a brave face and pretending like everything's fine. They're in denial at this point and they know it's happening, but they don't want to burden each other with their own problems. And that is a big, big, big problem in their relationship. It's the fact that they don't easily open up to each other when it comes to what they're feeling and what is happening with them health wise. So yeah, that was in this episode, and that was getting a little bit frustrating because they are just refusing to communicate. And I get it, because they don't want to burden each other with more, because they already know that mentally they are both not okay. And I think that makes it a very challenging situation to be in. It's like, how much do you burden them with at that point? So episode 23, Songran's mother being sick with cancer, and she doesn't tell Li Zan that is happening. And again, it's like, do we really need her mother to be sick with cancer? We don't. It's just like another addition to the story, but it's like, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really, really need to be there. I felt like it was a plot device to like stretch the drama out a little bit. So yeah, that was a bit frustrating. I put down episode 23, the acting by the male lead here, so by Chen Yuan, who plays Li Zan, when he recalls more from the accident, how he's curled on the floor crying and apologizing. Then the consultations with his therapist and how he takes a minute to put on a smile before he starts the call. It's like he's drowning, but no one is seeing it, even Songran, because her mother is also sick. So this is what I mean. They're both like literally drowning, and they cannot be each other's raft right now because they're drowning in their own thing, if that makes sense. And it's so heartbreaking to watch, but also it feels realistic, because it's like, it's that situation on the plane when they always say put on your mask first before you help, other people put on their masks. It's that situation. It's like, how can they help each other put on their masks when they can't even put on their own masks? And I think that is, it's just what's happening in these scenes right now, and it feels real. So then in episode 23, we also have Zoro dying. Now, Zoro is a little boy that they saved all the way back in, I think, episode, 8 or 10 or whatever. So it's that little boy from the famous picture, and he dies in another attempt, and it really does hit both of our characters. Episode 24, she finally tells him about her mother when she takes a turn for the worse. In these scenes, I feel like she's very, very dependent on him, too much so. And it's true, because it's like she can barely breathe and she's like holding on to him for dear life to be able to get through those those moments. But the thing is, he is not breathing himself, but because she's so in her in her despair, it's really hard for her to see to him, if that makes sense. So he's trying to shove everything of him down so that he can support her, and it's not a great environment to be in for either of them. So episode 25, I put their confrontation about him going to Eastern Country and not telling her. Songran is actually quite selfish. She's only thinking about her feelings and lashing out because she's worried about Li Zan's safety, but she won't see when he's in pain that he needs to do this. She also doesn't share everything about her situation with her eyes. She expects honesty, but she won't give the same back. So this is what I mean. They aren't being honest with each other, and it leads to this big blowout because he wants to go back to Eastern Country, and she's so incredibly scared for him that she lashes out. She doesn't like talk it out with him. So that was a very interesting dynamic, because you can kind of understand where both of them are coming from. But at that time, he kind of needs to do this, right? And she is not understanding that and the reason she's not understanding it is because he hasn't told her what he's going through. So she doesn't know, what's happening in his mind. So it's a very, very interesting back and forth between them in this specific scene, I think. So, and then episode 25, them saying goodbye at the airport and then her messaging him to not contact her. I can kind of see both sides. She's terrified of him going and something happening to him because she's so incredibly dependent on him. He has to go through it. So he wants to go back and face his demons head on. So I can cut, like I said, it's almost an impossible situation, and you can kind of understand where both of them, are really coming from, I think. So episode 27, I have, so leads Zan to the PTSD patient. So he's at this hospital and there is a PTSD patient there, and he kind of forms a bond and a connection with him because I think he can see himself in that patient. And so lead Zan says to the PTSD patient, "You will be fine, trust me." And the guy is saying to him, "Kill me, kill me." And he's saying, "I'm not lying. You will be okay. We are the same. That's why I often come to see you and I'm still alive." So it was a very, very touching moment, I think. And I overall really enjoyed that back and forth of him seeing himself in someone else, if that makes sense. So then I have for episode 27, and then finally meeting back up and him being a little cold to her. I kind of liked that. I liked that he just didn't forgive her straight away, and that he was a little bit cold to her because she literally says goodbye to him at the airport like everything's fine, and then messages him, "Don't talk to me again." So I kind of liked that he was a little bit cold and not forgiving her straight away. Episode 27 again, I put down Chen Yuan in a black leather jacket riding a bike. Yes, please and thank you. That is my comment. Episode 29, Assassin and Ben are just a whole vibe. I like their bickering and how they help each other. Like I said, Assassin and Ben are one of my favorite duos in the drama. I think they are often used as the comedic relief throughout the drama, but they also have a very beautiful bond. So I really liked them. Episode 29, seeing Ben admit his dream was journalism school, but he couldn't afford it, and making Sassin promise he would go back to finish his degree. Now, this is where I was like, Ben's gonna die. Ben's definitely not gonna make it alive, because if he's making Sassin promise to go back and finish his degree, he's absolutely going to die. There's no way this man is making it out alive of this drama. And unfortunately, I was correct. But I was ready for that one to come. I was, because I was like, there's no way he's gonna make it out alive. Episode 30, the rebels taking over the temple that houses all the soldiers' remains, and then the battle that ensues, was all filmed really well. Lee Zan struggling, he's really in the thick of it, and the acting here was so good, finding the strength somehow to push through, and Songran following everything through the camera lens, trusting him to do his thing, away, and her holding back. So I really liked this whole scene because they're both doing their own thing and trusting each other to kind of do whatever needs to be done, if that makes sense. Episode 31, I said them coming back and everyone celebrating that they took back Mutaman, which is the building that houses all the soldiers' remains. The kids saluting to the guards with the biggest smile on their face. Then our main couple finally finding each other in a crowd and running towards each other. I appreciate that they were able to do their own things by themselves and then find each other afterwards. So yeah, like I said, they were both extremely worried about each other, but they kind of tucked it aside and did what needed to be done, and I really appreciated that aspect of it. Episode 31, them both breaking down and telling each other everything. They truly needed this, and I'm glad it happened before they got into a relationship again. I loved that they finally broke down and had this conversation. It was very much needed. And like I said, I'm so glad it happened before they got back into the relationship because it opened up that communication street between them. And it was so needed, so incredibly needed. They cleared the air and obviously they got back together. So then we go episode 33, Li Zan defusing the bomb in the middle of an attack and Songran hugging him, grounding him. Then the conversation they had by the tree and him finally telling her everything that happened the day Liang Ji died. So that was a very, very good scene. Again, they are finally opening up their communication. Is it too late? Perhaps. But, once it's opened, and I'm glad that it's happening. Episode 35, I have also put down, I like Shenbei and Ran ended up as true friends. She resigned from her career and has found her calling. So Shenbei actually ends up, resigning from being a journalist and she's running the orphanage. So I really, like I said, I just loved her progression of character and like the fact that they truly become friends. So Shenbei and Songran truly become friends. I adored it. 10 out of 10 on their relationship. Episode 36, I put down not Li Zan getting stabbed and then Song Rang being kidnapped, them having her stab herself because she doesn't want him to be in danger. Chen Yuan's acting here, my god, him being dragged away while she's bleeding on the ground. My god, so this is what truly sets him off. Basically, she gets kidnapped and he goes after her to save her. And what they truly want is him because they want him to build bombs for the rebellion, right? So they leave her bleeding out. So he doesn't know whether she's alive or not. And then when they keep him trapped, basically, then, we see it in episode 36. Ben goes to save him and he's being tortured and he's being, injured and whatnot. But what truly breaks him is the fact that they have someone dressed like Songran being stabbed over and over again. So that, and he doesn't know whether it's Songran or not. He's delirious, he has pain. And to see your most loved person right there and you can't do anything and they're being stabbed over and over again, you don't know whether they're dead or alive. He was already fragile, like his psyche was already fragile, and this was like the last nail in the coffin. It broke him completely. It absolutely broke him. And I think the fact that then later on when they meet back up, he doesn't know whether it's her or not. He doesn't actually know whether it's real Songran or not. And it's so incredibly, sad to see. Obviously in this episode, Ben does go to save him. Ben dies in the process. And I was like, I knew Ben was going to die. There was no way this man was going to make it alive. And then episode 36, I also put down Sassin saying goodbye to Ben was a heartbreaking scene. It's so incredibly heartbreaking. And then episode 37, I have a big chunk. So I wrote down for episode 37, the scene of them in the kitchen, her cooking and telling him to take a nap, him saying he doesn't want to, her understanding it's because it's scary to sleep and telling him if he would like to watch her cook. He says, is that okay? Him reaching for her, but it's with his hand that has 2 fingers missing and saying it's ugly. Her pointing at her scars, asking if it's ugly. Him immediately saying no, her saying he isn't either and kissing his hand him kissing her only a peck, her asking him to kiss her again because he hasn't kissed her in so long. The fragility of both characters in this scene, Zan is so incredibly broken. He's holding on for dear life, and like 10 episodes ago, Ran was so attached to Zan. Now it's the other way around. This scene broke me. Like, this scene absolutely broke me. You can see there's this vacant look in Chen Yuan's eyes. Like, you can absolutely see, like, he is a 10th of the person he was. It's like, it's almost like nobody is there, if that makes sense. It's like his soul has gone extinguished. And you can see all of that through his acting, and that's why I say this is one of his best acting jobs, because he did it so incredibly believably well. It's not just the actions he does, it's the his eyes. It's incredible how you can almost see no sparkle there. It's like he's dead inside, and it was so heartbreaking to watch. I kid you not. And then episode 37, I wrote down him seeing a knife on the counter and his right back there in the torture room, because it's like he can't live a life. And even the psychologist says in says after seeing him, this is one of the worst cases I've ever seen. I don't know if there's anything we can do. I think that as soon as he's left alone, he will commit suicide. Like, that's how fragile he is. It's the fact that he cannot be left alone for the slightest moment, because he just doesn't fathom living anymore. And the only reason he's holding on for dear life is her. He can't see a knife, he can't see a pair of scissors, he can't see anything. And it's just like, how do you even come back from that? How do you function? And it's such a poignant moment in the show where it's just like, my God, that is hell. That looks like it's hell. And it looks like he's in hell. So yeah. And then episode 37, I said, these episodes truly show how much she loves him. She takes care of him and sticks to his side. Episode 38, him being triggered by the umbrella falling. It sounds like a gunshot, basically, and he goes berserk in the middle of the hospital and the kid pointing at him. This was so well done, showing what he can see, that he's thrown right back into the war zone, the acting again. So basically, he's at the hospital with her, and he, there's a sound and it sounds like a shot, and he loses it. So basically they kind of show you two sides. They show you what Songran is seeing, which is the hospital with people staring and saying he's crazy and whatnot. And then you have what he's seeing, which is basically a war zone and her being, tortured again. So it's really, really, really well directed, this scene, because you can see what he's seeing and what's actually happening. And it's just like the smallest of things triggers him, and it's so incredibly hard for him to be there and to just live. It's a really, really hard watch, I think. And then the last sort of note that I have is episode 38, Zan leaving and Ran's mum coming to her because she felt she wasn't okay. I love how much their relationship has moved to supportive. She's become much more supportive of her. So basically, he's just like, I can't keep putting her through this. So he leaves. He goes to a rehab center. She finds him, and then basically the ending is that they leave their parents a note and they disappear. Now, to me, and to a lot of people, they both committed suicide. And that's kind of what a lot of people think, because you don't see anything else. Like, you don't see them, they just disappear, right? Now, a lot of people take that ending to mean they went to live in the countryside by themselves, away from everything. But it's just like, how can they, right? How can they do that? Because it seems incredibly impossible for him to come back from where he was. And even her, because she was not okay. And it's just like, how can she look after him when she herself is not okay? So I don't know. To me, now, how the book ends, the book is slightly different. In the book, from what people have told me, it's that they live out for like 10 years and then he commits suicide himself, and they have a kid and everything, but he commits suicide like 10 years after this, this whole thing happens, and his PTSD comes back, and it's so like he cannot beat it and he cannot get out of it, and he commits suicide. So I think that's how the book ends. The show kind of leaves it up to interpretation and to whatever you want to go, like whatever direction you want to think of it in. Now, for me, the way they show these characters, it was so utterly broken, and for the fact that they just up and disappear, like there's nothing. To me, I think, and then all they show is kind of like they show you them by a white olive tree, and that's the ending shot. But they are kind of like hazy, almost kind of like they're ghosts. So that's what makes me think that they both committed suicide. A lot of people don't think that's the the case. So if you've watched this, DM me, let me know what you've thought of that ending, because that's my interpretation. And that's kind of how I saw it. But yeah, overall, this is a beautiful drama. It is. The acting in the second half specifically is stunning. It is, like I said, some of the best acting I've seen out of these actors, but it is an incredibly hard watch. Not just a case that it's a fact of it's a war zone and, we have that happening in our world right now, but it's the fact that also they're in really, really fragile mental states, and this show was not afraid to go there. So I liked it overall. It is traumatic to me. I don't think I will ever rewatch this drama, but I'm glad I did watch it. And I think that's it, guys. That is a review for The White Olive Tree. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This has been another episode of the Tea and Soju podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and I shall catch you next time. Bye.